Hello Blender folks, welcome back to Pxy-TALKS. This is a special live stream. It's a sort of a podcast. I've never done a podcast before. This is not a podcast, but because here I want to present some imagery from Blender directly, write down something, draw some schemes, and because here we're gonna do something different. Pxy-TALKS, then basically, yeah, I have the chat here, so if you want to comment anything, feel free. Let me also change the screen here so you can see that I have actually the chat right here. Yeah, so this can become a conversation or discussion or whatever, but at least let me present the basics here. I don't know if the sound is too loud. So here I'm not gonna demonstrate technical, artistic stuff in Blender. This is more a conceptual investigation because I've been through a lot recently on the past few years, let's say, in the direction of what I believe I'm passionate about. Yes, I'm very passionate about animation filmmaking. I used to be passionate about 2D animation filmmaking, like 2D as in traditional animation, right? Could be done on computers, but still drawn, right, by hand. I was in love with when I was a kid, of course, naturally, very often kids like what they watch at their time, right? So in the 80s and 90s, so lots of animations, Western animations, sometimes co-productions, and of course Japanese animations as well. But it started out, yeah, a mix of both maybe. So animation TV series, I love those, and that is a huge inspiration of mine. But I struggle today to maintain this what I call something that is, it's a concept, maybe it's not mine, but it's I call it so there's many topics I will address here, many conceptual words, but what I want to, my purpose here is to express some of my personal experience regarding animation making, because I consider myself an animator, storyteller, and yeah, an artist, but I like to tell stories from narrative stuff like more traditional narrative stuff like no, not traditional, but let's say the traditional sense of storytelling, which will be something more conventional that everyone knows about, like comic books, right? Graphic novels, and can be web comics, films, or actually in my case animation cinema, right? And so then comes also includes in that animation series, TV series, web series, why not? So I was very in touch with these narrative structures of stories and storytelling. So, but when it comes to the own realization of oneself's artwork in terms of stories, usually we could say ambitious projects, not necessarily commercial projects, possibly commercial, possibly monetizable, let's say like that. Yeah, producible maybe, yeah, in the sense of having a revenue, but whether it is the case, if you have a staff of collaboration or if you are doing alone, if it is commercial or not, all that doesn't really matter to me, because of course it will set different constraints and different advantages and disadvantages, but what I really want to talk about here is not about this stuff. It's about the authorial aspect, the artistic aspect of creating one of these. Could be just a short feature film, or many of them, maybe of the same universe, I don't know. But usually animation filmmaking is a very, very tough, challenging quest. It's not like something, it's very complex, it's very engaging, but also it can be very disengaging. I won't make any statistics here because I think I don't have them. They might be completely inaccurate, but I know there are a lot of creative people that who engage in making animation films, whether short feature films, long feature films, series, whatever, sketches, I don't care. But the fact of an artist being able to create those stories in animation, for me this is a big thing, because I am an animator and I can't, at least not easily. When money is involved, like I get someone pay me for do something, oh yeah, that is another story, because that is like usually how professionals would engage, right? They get paid, and that money is energy, there's a say like that. And yeah, totally true. When you pay some folks or you are paid to do something, that things go easy. Well, no, not always, but I mean, money is energy, so it's like, even if you hate the project, you'll make it because of the money. Possibly, I would do sometimes. So it can be art or not, but so it's not about a money affair. So it's not, money might be the consequence of a good planning, of a good mindset, of opportunities, good handling of opportunities, good handling of oneself, sabotaging problems and whatever. So it's not so discussion about money, although this can be involved. So my discussion is is about the complexity of the creative process, which involves technical aspects, involves artistic process, involves ego process, involves psychological process, whatever. It's very difficult, because from my perspective, after decades struggling with making projects or trying to make projects, some few that are successful, many that are not, when I really struggled the most was whenever I attempt to build up, to make my own authorial personal projects from scratch. They usually were ambitious, by the way, so this is an important factor to mention, like, oh, I want to make a mega hyper saga of some story that, with, I don't know, maybe could be a web comics with hundreds of pages, or which not a lot actually, but well, that's a good amount of work anyways. So it's already a challenge. Many artists will just not do it. Why? Because, well, it's tons of work, and it's a lot of pressure, and it's training. But if you're not being paid for that, for doing and if you're like trying to be an entrepreneur, that's an independent artist, let's say like that, creating your own stuff, selling them or not, but maybe being paid by publishing them later on, I don't know. When it comes to this kind of thing, I believe I have the feeling, because this is the case for me, this is the hardest thing that can be in an artist's life, that is an artist who, of course, there could be material problems, personal problems, all sorts of problems, but for the poetic aspect, this is certainly the most tragical one. I'm being a bit ironical here, maybe not tragic, but it can be tragic as well. Things can fail miserably, lead to self-destruction, self-consummation in drugs, I don't know, whatever, crisis, life crisis. But the fact is that so find the artist finding his or her way or ways through this chaos of creation and making, whether being paid or not for doing the authorial project, like the storytelling, the animation, film, movie, series, whatever, web comics, comic, graphic novel, whatever, story. Could be an illustration, a painting that tells a story. That also, design also can tell stories, right? It's not, I'm not trying to, but I'm focusing here in animation filmmaking, right, folks? So just giving some extra examples so everyone can more or less get in touch with every aspect that I want to bring here. So for me, the authorial thing is the most challenging thing, because if an artist is able to create with quality, if not with quality, that can take time, right? So you can do perhaps, but if you're already able to do, if the artist is already able to do this production, right? Animation films, even if they are not great, they might be, oh, this has potential, right? You know when something has potential, you see, oh, this is good, maybe it could be better here, it's not so professional, but that is freedom, because the artist, I respect very much the animation filmmakers, well, artists that can do that, even if they don't do it very well, they are doing, and you see the talent, you see the quality, you see they might have a lot to improve, but this improvement, this idea of improvement, it's like a dual-edged sword. So this is bullshit, right? The richness is not the improvement thing. This is good, but like if I could choose between making art and improving, well, I will choose making art. While improving, yes, great, sure, but it's not, the improvement is bullshit. This is the illusion that the society, that the educational system with its garbage conventionalisms, right, and parenting, whatever, it's the culture, right, of correctness, of perfectionism, narcissistic society, whatever. All this idea of perfecting the child, the you need to be perfect, and we get all these vices, horrible things for creation sometimes. Then often the artist ends up suppressing, right, everything in the life because of some perfectionism. It's a vice, right? It's not a virtue. It can be managed, of course. So of course the problem is when this idealism, perfectionism is so strong that it prevents the artist to actually make projects. Like, and I sometimes I think, well, there's so many artists there, and so many times I know a lot. I know a lot of artists of my that I met with in early age, when I was very young, as I was a kid, and then and I kept meeting new fellows, right, making friends, artists, and in younger age, and many of them I know. I'm talking now to a friend that is about my age, about 40 years old, and I've just re-met him lately, and we are just talking. I'm trying to get him back to the inspirational world of graphic novels. I don't know, he liked Batman and stuff like that. He has his own characters or set up. Then he had plenty of ideas. He was very passionate, just like me, but life problems, right? Then time passed, and he didn't have the same opportunities that I might have had. So, but for me, he is still an artist. He just needs to reset his life artistically in some way, and he wants it. And I was talking to him with him about this, and I want to help him, and by helping him, he can help me also. But so I met a lot of artists who, not only this case, there are many others that they okay, maybe they end up working in the industry, but they can't just, it's like they forgot about the most sacred thing in their creative universe, which was their own creation, right? So they are sold to the market like crap. Like they become very good artists, but like they it's not they forget, they know, but they just can't. Something is blocking them. And I've seen this pattern over and over again. I wouldn't be talking if it wasn't a problem that was affecting me directly. And so this is why I find this super interesting also, because I've been studying, investigating through a lot of years and through a lot of research, whatever. Let's go to the topics now, because this is getting a bit off the baseline structure that I was wanting to achieve for this, right? So here is just more like an introduction, right? So one of the concepts is to start about the idea, the magic or magical window. So what is this? This is just more like a not superficial idea, but it's like, maybe you remember when you were a kid, or maybe you are a kid, I don't know, but there are some moments, not only for kids, but kids get this all the time, at least creative kids. So a lot of imagination. So every time they often get into that magical realm where they just go in fantasy. They play Lego, they imagine stuff, and this experience, it's a transcendental experience, right? It's a magic. Some would call that a magic perspective. That doesn't matter what it is. We adults, as we grow up, as adolescence, over adolescence, and so on, young adults, we still have those magical moments. Maybe not everyone, but I know I still have, but they start to become stiff. They start to become rarer. It's not the same thing, of course. This is how we evolve. Apparently, we grow, and we start losing some. We gain other features as ours. We become smarter. We become, or maybe not. We become more rational. We tend to become more rational, more reflexive, and so forth. But regarding the magic window, this is very, very hard, in my opinion. This is something that is really hard and become rigid. So we start to see less and less of those magical windows, and some would say, inspiration, you don't need inspiration to create art. Fuck you. Fuck you. This is bullshit. Of course, hard work, that works, but then is that what you really want? No, this is not what I want. This is what a fanatic wants. Maybe it's a discourse for the capitalist system, right? To okay, you just get the job done, fuck you, right? That's basically, those guys are just defenders of oppressive system. There's no mystery here, right, folks? It's just that a lot of so I won't even waste my time with with a conversation with this kind of mindset, which is a completely corrupted mindset. You see the evil in it. You don't need to think twice, right? But sometimes it might look correct because that might work in a material sense. That might be true. That might be a way around. But it's also a brutal way to get things done. And I think this might end up with heavy costs to the individual, as an artist, as an individual, as a human being. Well, but sometimes it's the only way, right? But I won't accept this as I understand it is justifiable to some extent, but to get into it like an ideal, I think this is madness. This is pure garbage. So this is just a person that was so oppressed that believed that the oppression was the maximizing it on it, him or herself will get the and that the person just lose himself or herself. It's very hard to exit this after you get into this kind of, because it's like it's a corruption process. An example here in real life is like you see it happened to me just I tried to once create not a company, but to engage in some direction of staff in an artistic project and stuff like that, managerial stuff, and in a capitalist society, of course. And even though I tried to make a more humane system for everyone to work, it didn't work out very well. I ended up having to make evil things because the system is evil, right? It's unfair. It's structurally unfair. So it's like you can survive, you can maintain some sort of, but you're already part of the team, right? So there's no escape. And if you start to idealize the system because it works to some people, the minority maybe works well for a really tiny minority, right? If you start to idealize this, then you're just not oppressing yourself, you're helping oppressing the others, right? So another artist and the artist that is yourself. So okay, let's jump to another. So magical window. So inspiration is important. It's essential. Without inspiration, we are not artists. We are nothing. We are just maybe. It's part of the human being to get inspired, and the poet, the artist, or the shaman, or whatever, there are some relation between those things, but magic, right? So there is the shaman, or I won't say the shaman, the artist can see as a kid that magical window more often, or it's a technique to see. The art the art itself is a magical window. If it weren't, we wouldn't be listening to music, looking at arts, and getting inspired. So we are inspired, naturally inspired, right, as human beings. and the artist deals with inspiration. So says anyone that try to say that inspiration is not important, that person doesn't know what he or she is talking about. It's just like a shallow conversation to say, to try to sell some brutal idea which is not actually in the interest of the artist, but in interest of the capitalists who exploit the artist. So that's why the artist then needs to do 100 times better than he would do, because his needs now to chase a pattern, an aesthetic pattern that is not even his pattern. It's not his quest, his authorial quest. No, it is what the other, what is what the industry, I don't know, is what some regime, oppressive regime of aesthetics, because the commercial aesthetics is a regime, like it's it's sort of a, we could maybe not dictatorship, but something like a meritocracy. So it's related. It's what sells the most, and what sells the most is not often is not the best. Often is just is one of the crappiest things, right? So of course there is a correlation between quality and the what is more popular. Of course there is some correlation, but it's not as direct as some would like it to seem. So that's why there are some types of art we will only find outside of the market, because in the market they don't work, because they are not accepted for whichever reason. Eventually there are moments in time, culture, in space, where the certain things that are underground, or they get into the cultural industry, the mainstream circuits, or they get integrated more often than they substitute anything. No, they just get integrated. Anyways, we are sorry folks, let's go back here to the main topic. So here so it's micro topics here, so just concepts, a magical window. So here the part of the quest is for me the animation filmmaker. As an animated filmmaker, I want to be able to have access to this inspiration kids inspiration, right? More often, and this is very hard, because it just sometimes is a glimpse. The magical window opens a small moment, and because why you need this? Because you need this to be able to make your own project, not the project of the others, not the style of the others, no, your own. So I know that I need that. Of course I can draw my characters here, I can even model them without any inspiration, sure. But if I want to make a 3D animation web series on my own, without being paid for that, I can't just bonk my head on the walls every day. No, I end up killing without any inspiration. No, I will need a lot of transpiration. That of course. But if I avoid inspiration, no, I want inspiration. I'm looking for more inspiration. So I'm not trying to escape transpiration. I know it is necessary, especially in CG, or animation is already super transpiration. So it's already hyper transpiration. So it's crazy. So probably I'm crazy then. So no, I'm joking, right? Animation is something as anything else, but it's a strange art, right? Curious thing. So we want more of the inspiration. So how to get them is one interesting thing that needs to be reflected upon, in my opinion. But this is something that I'm still working on. So just pointing it out, right? that this thing, it can't be any random thing. No, this has a meaning. And here is when I'm going to try to relate this with the other topics here, folks. So here I'll present you one of my findings in the case of Blender, so CG art making, right, in Blender. So actually, of course, CG art related, all this related to the animation, right? Animation, yeah, let's say 3D animation film making. All right, so because in CG art making in Blender there are technicalities that are specific to Blender and to CG, right? So as well as okay, so I think that okay, this is just a relational thing, but they're actually a blob here. It's just more words to try to describe it. So it's all this technicality stuff. And what happened to me as I was learning, I had some experience with 2D traditional animation filmmaking, but was not a vast experience. I was much more experienced as an animator myself than as animation filmmaker. It's different. Okay, we can say it's equivalent. If you know one, you know the other. Not necessarily, but they are more or less broader neighboring skill sets, because what I call animation is like it's more like pure animation. Like you know how to animate characters, special effects, 2D, 3D, whatever, cameras, motion in general, but scenery, you know, the tricks and trades of animation. But the animation filmmaking is something that may or may not involve directly the animation in all its technicalities, in all its details, but it's more, of course, linked to direction and realizing. So this is very interesting. In French language there is a word, I think it's réaliser. I think it's with Z. Sorry if it's not with Z, it's with S, but that word exists in English and in Portuguese. So réaliser, it means to realize, realizar in Portuguese. So to realize in English, S or Z, it's English, US English, but the meaning is apparently the same, maybe with some connotations. I'm not totally sure, but the interesting thing is that in French, there is this individual, it's called le réalisateur. Le réalisateur, it's the realizer, literally is the maker, is the one that makes reality, the animation film reality come true. So it's the one that will realize, make it real, right? So the réalisateur is the director, the 3D animation filmmaker, right? It's filmmaker making, right? So réaliser, this is filmmaking. I filmmake this, right? So I animation filmmake this. So I realize this. So it's not the same as directing. It's combined with direction, but the realizer can be the animator himself or herself. So it's like the it's a short feature film, short feature film, the animator is doing it alone, then he or she is the realizateur, is the realizer, is the 3D animation filmmaker. So it's not, that person is not just animating, it's making everything, right? So this is the difference. It's very simple. But usually 3D animation filmmakers are also animators. By core they are animators, but by core we are many other things, of course. So I assume that usually a 3D animation filmmaker is also a director, is also a storyteller, and so forth. So but it's not necessary, but this is the concept. Well, this is very basic, right? But this is not so basic, right? Who would know, right? In French, that is very interesting, because the idea here is to realize. And what we now we play with some words here. Maybe this is not so good in English, but fuck the culture. I don't care. I'm speaking English here, but with my own way of speaking in some sense, right? I'm trying to adapt it so that it can be understood in English from any other background, right? I hope. But yeah, so I'm trying to translate some ways of saying. So maybe in English, in traditional English, that would sound weird, this play the words, but that I don't care. This is very logic in my place. It's how we express ideas. So right, how some people can express, making some allegories. So here, let's say, the curious thing is that in English, right, you have the two words, but the meaning is the same. But then you have the realizer, realize with Z, or the verb to realize with Z and with S, but the meaning would be the same. But then when we say I realize something in English, that means I've just, usually, right, the common sense is to, I've just realized this, I've just noticed this, right, but there is something about being a realizer, the realizateur, that in order to be able to réaliser, to make the movie, right, you need to realize, in the English sense, right, to make sense of something, right, and this makes sense, making sense of something beyond, alongside of making the job, right, it's is essential, is of the essence. So it's very curious, how these words, there are more to this, but right now I'll leave to this generic philosophical reflection. I'm sure that if you are smart, you can go deeper, and if you want to check this, certainly you can find more things than I did, but anyways, it's just a matter of curiosity, right? Let's see what else I know. I have more things here. Yeah, I have plenty of other things. So that took a lot of time, and I expected to get more in depth, but couldn't. Sorry. So let's continue. Okay. So about the technique, the technicality of 3D animation filmmaking in Blender, this is where I'm gonna give you the example that I found. For me, there is, I studied production of animation, right? But it was more based on some 2D things. There is something we all heard about, probably pre-production, production, post-production stage, right? Stages of production, right? And so in 3D, there is some in CGR, right? There is some in 3D productions, right? In animation, there are things that are a bit strange. I thought I used to think it was one way, but it was another way. The pre-production stage in 3D is not exactly. It can be confusing in relation to the 2D animation, and I come from a 2D animation background, so this is why for me it was a bit confusing, because for me stuff, and I will explain why, stuff like rigging character, imagine rigging, modeling, sculpting, modeling with 3L is great, modeling, sculpting, texturing, shading, compositing, rendering, whatever, you name it. So all this alongside with, well, we could have 3D layout for animation, right? Or 3D, or just animation, right? But anyways, then we have even rendering. So actually all this, well, for me, I was used for some reason that I couldn't track entirely, but I believe it was a confusion I've made because for a long time I've studied that, more than 15 years by the way, and more based on focus on the 2D, even though I worked in a 3D animation production. But for me, this was more like production in a 2D studio, right? 3D, the layout, the animation, all that came before in 2D would be character designs, blah blah, preparation of scenes, storyboard, animatic. Those things would be pre-production. But turns out that in 3D, all those things that would be preparation stuff for the productions of the layout and animations are very close, right? But modeling, sculpting, rigging, texturing, shading, blah blah, layout, even so, all this is stacked. Even rendering, apparently, is stacked on production stage. And where is the pre-production stage for the CG or 3D pre-production stage? Well, actually, in studios, in conventional studios, bigger studios, that would be like I think the animatic, the storyboard, animatic, the model sheets, maybe, all that it's come from 2D that needs then to become 3D. But you see, sculpt, modeling, all this stuff already that are they are very time consuming to build, right? Rigging, modeling, sculpting, you name it, texturing, shading, all this which come before the animation, but they are still production. And so pre-production for me, that, because I'm a one-man's army studio, right? I won't be like that forever. It's just the moment that I am here at this time. For me, this makes no sense at all to be pre-production, to be production modeling sculpt, because my goal as an animator, essentially an animator in all this production, well, maybe animation filmmaking, but yeah, I need to do everything, right? But my essential thing, when I really connect more, because 3D animation filmmaking, it's very tied with the animator's task, right? When you are animating the scenes, right, then you need to compose the whole scene with the layout or without layout, but you need to compose the animation, the cinematics, right? The character, the special effect, everything needs to be animated, right, in timed, and all that. So all this composed, the colors, everything must work all together. So this is the big challenge here. It's tied to, of course, everything is connected, but like when I have all the modules, like everything ready, sometimes of course we can't have sometimes everything, every little asset, but it's that this is the asset production. The assets, actually the 3D assets, pre-production for what? For an army, of course, of a single one man's army, right? Because I'm a single person doing everything, so I don't want to be interrupting my work animation or directing animation, directing myself basically. I don't want to be interrupting my, I want to have all these 3D assets already set for this more animators inclined production stage, because otherwise imagine I have to stop for, oh, I need to rig this finger now. You stop everything you're doing, just this is crazy. You can break your rig and all that. So imagine, oh, I'm missing a spaceship. Let's make a shuttle here. Okay, sometimes there's no choice. We can forget things. We might change even stuff in the middle. So that's fine. That, I think it's probably inevitable, unless you are very strict and very organized. Then we don't need to change anything from good planning. But usually those are not. We should expect to be going backwards sometimes to make some extra asset, just to, because sometimes the scene won't work the way we expected, so we need to bring something new and to the scene. And so, but you see, when it comes to a bigger studio, you have a lot of more army of people, usually more folks, to be working on different things with their own specialization. So everything can be stacked in the same, like production stage, the production, right? So but for then one man's army studio, then you need, no, not you need, but this is more like pre-production, modeling, sculpting, rigging, texture, all the because what we are doing here is preparing 3D assets, preparing all or almost uh, 3D assets. So it's a pre-production, of course, for the production. So I think this is clear, right, folks? Hope it is clear that what I wanted to indicate here. This is why when I started to reread content about 3D production stuff, well, I was shocked, because what the fuck is this? Why they are putting everything here in production? And then I was super confused. Then I've read, I've revised. Okay, that makes sense. But now, after some reflection, reconsideration, now I understand why I was struggling why I made this misunderstanding. Actually, it's not so much as a misunderstanding. It's because that was conceived in the sense of that organization of the production was conceived based on a studio that has an army of individuals, right? Of artists, of creators, of technicians, and so it's different. It can be conceived better or in a different way, that might be more positive to conceive this stuff better in a different way, if depending on the staff, right? The amount of people involved. So it's one single person. This makes little sense to me, because for me the real production that really connects more to the 3D animation filmmaking is the yeah. But maybe this is just my way of seeing it. Actually, it would even in of course the director would be looking at every single stuff usually, right? The is the model good? Is the rigging good? Is the right, everything, is the color of the texture, is those things good? Are those things good for the final scene? Are the compositing is the compositing working for all those things? So of course a director would réalisateur would look at all that, assumedly. But so the réalisateur is everywhere, right? But for me, it costs little to assess. It's more an energetic stuff. For me, it costs little to assess as a director those things. It's kind of funny actually. Oh, this is good, this is not. This is, for me, it's okay. But when it comes to assessing scene making, of in the sense of directing the scene, this I find way more complex and engaging. It's not that the other things are not complex. It's just that it seems like way more overwhelming thing to compose things in a great scene, action scenes, dialogue scenes, whatever scene, right? So cinematography. Then when it comes to the action play, right, I think there it is the real thing that will get most of this thing into play, right? And so this is why, for me, this is the production stage. So when I have grabbed the scene and start to make the animation, combine the elements, the assets, everything. So everything needs to be ready, otherwise the workflow will be broken, and then it will be harder and harder to get a clear vision of what's going on, or it will be very, very complicated with all these interruptions. So this is, maybe it's a bad approach, I don't know, but in some ways I'm still there. So now that this tricky technical part was sort of this deconstructed just a little, I will show what was the swamp. Yeah, let's start. So I found a big gigantic problem with my own process of trying to do 3D animation filmmaking in Blender, and I'll present you what can be my ultimate solution. Well, an exaggeration, but what I mean is I'm gonna present a condition where things are not working, not really working for making ambitious project, or even not so ambitious project. Let's say a short feature film, could be a pilot episode, webisode, or maybe little couple of webisodes, but it could be even a single short feature film with, like, I don't know, sci-fi with stuff like that, right? So I'm gonna show you. Let's get a new color here, because annotation, where is that? Okay, so just get this, and let's get this color here. Okay. It's almost the same color, right? Yeah, so let's get this instead. All right. So no, that didn't work. Okay. As I need to. Okay, hold Control to erase. It's left mouse button. All right. So. All right. So I discovered that my own process of determining, of managing my own stuff for the production of the 3D animation filmmaking project that I cherish so much, right? The new Scene 5 with these characters and all that. So there was some, not dependency cycle loop, not some loop like that, but something very bad was happening and making everything impossible, nearly impossible, or very inconsistent, or super ultra slow, free, almost frozen production stuff. And this is what I'm calling the something that if you are trying to make a ambitious project like I do want, and I intend to, I will do so, so this might be very important for you to pay attention to understand, because maybe you can relate to this in your own creative patterns. So pre-production, okay, pre-prod, the pre-prod swamp. So what is the pre-prod? Is the pre-production, of course. Can make some icon like this, right? It's not very clear, right? Okay, let's say this is a barrier. I'm gonna soon see what this is about. So already from what I've explained before, we know that the pre-prod relates here not to 2D model sheet stuff, illustrations, concept arts. No, it's it is that, yes. That could be also called development, those 2D stuff. But let's say that it will include that. But the pre-prod is actually all the 3D assets here. So 3D assets, which means it includes this, and 2D, yeah, 2D stuff, whatever. So all this, the pre-prod, so the 3D assets, right? And there's the pre-prod swamp. So what the heck is this? So the swamp is because falling the swamp, you're like you're struggling to get out of it. Can't move. It's swampy. It's hard to move. Can't navigate. Can't swim very well. Yeah, it's a pain to move. It's painful to move. It doesn't work, right? It's like it's just can't get out of it easily. It's just very hard to progress. And so why this was happening to me so much intensively, and I couldn't get out of this because I just wanted to have the 3D assets ready for engaging in the 3D animation filmmaking, which is the production stage here, right? Here. So and this is very crazy what I'm gonna tell here, but this is true. So this is why I'm doing this hard talk, because if you don't understand this and you're struggling with creating your own projects, like ambitious projects, real good projects, don't lie to me. Sorry, I'm just imagine some phantasmatic person, but don't buy it. It's as if I know, just talking random, just figuratively. So it's not. Uh, uh, we all have projects that we cannot. We all probably have projects, author or project want to make, but something doesn't make it possible. Because if I knew, maybe I know some artists that can do everything they want and they are very satisfied, or maybe they are not. I don't know, that could happen too. The more the guy does, the less satisfied he or she is. So that well, why not, right? So, but I don't think life would be so easy for. So it's like I assume that if we are created, there will all be those kind of artistic creations that we are really seriously fighting for to be able to do, and maybe we die without completing every, right? So that's life, right? So the artists always have something, I think, that is inspiring, or more than one thing, and not everything can be done, right, can be achieved. So need to make some choice. But so if you don't struggle with what I'm saying here with main project, so that's great. Then you probably are in the good way. You don't need maybe even to be watching just out of curiosity, maybe. But you could still imagine this for those other projects that you for some reason can't articulate very well, and you wonder why. So it could be something like this. So let's get in, but this is very specific in some ways to 3D. To be able to adapt it to other language, you need to have some deconstruction. So in here I was literally stuck in the pre-prod swamp, because I couldn't, it was like a barrier to get into the 3D animation filmmaking, right? Because I never had the proper assets. Because what happened? I had a character here. She was modeled, but her rig was not complete. I needed perhaps another character. Then her rig was half completed. Then the hair here was good, or it needs retakes, and the costumes. Then here the costumes were fine, but the shaders were bad, and so very very good. Then the scenery, there are a lot of things, and then you needed to make composition, and nothing was. It's like I was just jumping from one thing to the other and never having nothing clearly complete. And you might think, oh, this is just complete lack of organization. No, I was sort of organized, but remember, this is not a paid project that I'm being paid for. It's like an authoral project. I'm having to get my own resource to do this, and doesn't justify the disorganization. But the disorganization was actually, this is just the behavior, apparent behavior. The real cause, or some proposition for real cause that I've identified finally, which is very shockingly disruptive, shockingly, how to say, I don't know the word right now, doesn't matter. With a sort of shocking, not so shocking for me, because I investigate those things in analysis. I get some help for that, so that helps. But the fact is that this was just what was happening in terms of behavior, but what was causing the behavior is what is interesting to try to investigate. So you can try to solve certain aspects of the behavior by breaking, right? There are methods for that, they sort of work, but sometimes you want to reach the root of the the cause of the something root, and this is what certain approach won't help. They just try to solve here, but then you don't totally, sometimes it doesn't help at all. You just get other behaviors that will compensate for the this thing, so you still get the similar issue and nothing solved. So sometimes it works, and that is sufficient to get things to work, right? So that would be great if all the cases were like that, but it's not always like that. So certain cases are really, really complex, and it takes sometimes years, life years to get through that. So this is why I'm taking this very, very serious. It looks like bullshit, but this is real life, and this is why what a lot of people want, artists or like famous, many famous professionals that became famous after their success, they all say stories, horrible stories about their, if they are truthful, many of them, they all say how hard it was to get past some sometimes really apparently ridiculous things, but actually they were very intense, and it's very hard to express those subjective motives because it's like it's very subjective. So here I hope that this will make sense. Okay, so it's not just that in CG all these things are not complicated. No, they are super complicated, but as we start to get good in 3D, as I have been, this start to become simpler to handle. So it's not so it requires some education, right? Skill set building. So this is very, very time consuming to get good at, especially doing mostly everything. Want to understand mostly everything. So this is one cause of the plausible cause of the swamping, because of course, because this is so much work for a single person, you start to, oh, okay, you have to, how to do all those things, sometimes maybe hundreds of assets, I don't know. You have to have everything ready to maybe start working here. So then yes, but the fact is that because I was getting good at those stuff, turns out that I've realized, no, this is not a justification. The technical complications of pre-prod 3D assets, it's not actually justification for this swamping or the barrier, right, that is locking me from metaphysically, right? You just can't. It's no, I need these assets to make stuff, otherwise I can't see what I'm doing. It's I need the rig to work. Like, how am I gonna animate a character that is completely if some asset doesn't work, then you have to, oh no, I'm gonna fix that later. Yeah, then you fix the rig, you break something, then you go back to the main. That's right. So it's very complicated. So so trying to solve the pre-prod is good, but then what you get swamped in it. So so the technical complications, because especially because I was able to notice, because I was getting good at 3D finally after a few years. So now and my project required slightly complicated assets, so this is why it took so long. But otherwise, if the project's simple, it might be much easier. Or if it was better at 3D sooner, that would have been solved maybe beforehand, earlier. But anyways, so it was not here. It's not so much that the things are complicated, that's why it takes so long, that's why I'm swamped. No, the project is too ambitious. Yeah, all those factors come, but no, there was something more in depth, and that actually was fear. And this fear, yeah, but fear of what? Well, you see where this arrow is pointing at. The arrow is pointing at precisely of animation filmmaking. Well, how? What do you mean fear? You want to make 3D? Yeah, but the unconscious is like that, so it's very crazy. So actually, what's happened is that what was preventing me generating this metaphysical barrier and having me swamped into these patterns that for some random reason that was nearly uncontrollable without, I was never hardly enabling any proper finished assets for the 3D animation film stage, the production stage, right? So I was never getting anything because I was literally plunging somewhat against my will, but also at my own unconscious will, maybe we could say like that. I was plunging deep into the pre-production swamp because I didn't regulated that fear, the fear of engaging directly in with. Imagine, now I'm gonna explain. I know animation. I made some animation short feature films in the past, but never did. Curiously enough, for some reason, I never did animation filmmaking with a style that was personal, or with I've even co-directed animation, co-animated with other artists, university short feature films. Yeah, I even got some selection in some selected in some festival of animation, little thing, but still something relevant to mention. So I had experience, some useful, important experience as an animation filmmaker. I did much more animations, 2D traditional animation, than I did animation filmmaking. So this was sort of a frustration from the past that and whenever I did animation filmmaking, I exercised that activity, right? Sometimes I directed, sometimes I participated, co-director, or always animated in any case. Sometimes it was about animatics, so you need to coordinate the scene, like animatic storyboard, you know, the story reel, the animatic. So anyways, all those experience I had as a animation filmmaker, I never did on my own style. But I did 2D animations, so like random stuff, maybe some portfolio stuff, yeah, a lot of stuff, but never my own, which would require, a more dynamic commercial style, like anime, like those action stuff, that mainstream stuff. I like those stuff, right? And so I never did this for films, animation films, myself. I love to do, because this is what passion is. Once I have passions about it, but for many reasons it wasn't on my possibility of scoping the things that I was doing, or not. I was just not choosing to do them. So turned out that along many years or decades, I even worked in the industry on occasion, but I never had the chance to work like exactly in what I wanted. So it's just like that, right? And so it turns out that I didn't really gathered experience, let's say a consistent experience, in the sense of having animation filmmaking for dynamic shots, dynamic anime. I can make dynamic. I know how to make stuff. When you say I can make stuff, right? Good stuff like individual shots. I can write all that. I can animate camera. I can animate character. 2D, 3D. Now I know 3D as well. So it's challenging, but yeah, individually it's not hard, with some exploration. But when it comes to storytelling and then the animation filmmaking, then it's another story, because then you need to compose everything, not just a single shot, but multiple, this whole scene. You need to integrate things, maybe you have to put some dialogue. There's much more depth into this. It's way more complex. And so this is what I was scared about, because if, oh, give me all the assets, let me do just the then, because I was looking for the ideal perfectionism stuff, like I wouldn't accept failure, because I would like to get it good, not in the first shot, but it needed to be good without experimentalism. But I'm an experimentalist. So the thing is that this unreflected fear, of irrational fear, sorry, I'll explain why I think it's irrational, of not being able to achieve good shots, scenes, sequence in animation filmmaking. In the case actually 3D, but it could be 2D as well, doesn't matter. In this case it will be 3D in Blender. That would scare me to death. I wasn't thinking about I'm scared of that. No, it's just the fear is so big and so obscure. It's a phantasm that you don't look at it. It's just naturally, spontaneously. No, I just, so this is why I'm not gonna reach this, never, until I'm good, until I get all the good assets prepared. But turns out that one. So basically, this was a system, like a self-sabotage system, but it's a self-defense system, because actually the fear is irrational, because actually, well, you can rationalize this very easily. Look at this. If okay, let's say, why do I need to have this short feature film, this first sketch maybe? It doesn't need to be perfect. It could use maybe this character, the crappy scenery, like something very simple, and get the animation. Then you place just some lighting, some stuff. You don't need to make the masterpiece right at the beginning. So you can have some poor shots here and there. It doesn't need to be perfect. So why are you so scared to do this? No. So this is a way to rationalize. So that means many things. First, that if we can dissolve if you can identify, so see how obscure it was to reach to this point, but then dissolving this fear rationally, just thinking, strategy, because it's an irrational fear. You might not even realize it exists, it is there. And probably this relates to artistic blockage. It's about fear of something, and this is the thing that needs to be tracked. So this can be very complex and subjective, case by case, I believe. But in this case, it was my own fear of failure in something that I cherish very much, which is the animation filmmaking. Because in my mind, in my ego, I think that I'm the greatest, or I'm very good at this. I can't fail. I know that I'm good, but maybe I don't need to be the best. No, there's no best in art, right? So, in my opinion, they are just different, and trained and not trained, right? Inspired, not inspired, whatever. So, here, I can cope with failures here if I go experimental. And here a little thing. I was going experimental already, because but here, and then I was just swamping myself here. But where I need to go experimental is not here, because here I'm not scared of experimenting here, but I'm scared about experimenting here because this is a sensible thing. It was so far from my grasp, because of past experience, past trajectories, whatever, that I sort of idealized this animation filmmaking. And now whenever, so it's become sensitive, but I can cope with, I see how I can cope with this. But before I couldn't see, because I couldn't configure, I couldn't realize, not in the sense of realizateur, to realize in terms of, to realize, English, right, in terms of, meaning I couldn't figure out that I was really scared about this stuff. Because, oh, if I fail, I suck, right? No, I'm a failure, so you know that, how that goes, right? So, but, so I couldn't accept that this could go wrong. So as if I was already great, perfect at a god on this. No, I'm not a god at this. I am aware now. I accept that I'm not perfect, that I'm not consistent, but I also accept and understand that, oh, wait, hold on a moment. I can train in this stuff. If I'm not good now, if I'm like 20% as good as I thought original, no problem. I will train and train and train and study reference, right, and copy whatever and get better. But I will face the problem, the challenge directly, right? I will by going experimental. So these 3D assets, they don't need to be perfect. They don't need to be ideal. They also, this pattern, this swamping needs to be gone, right? So I need the new approach here for me. So it will be to train, to do more of this stuff, 3D animation filmmaking. And for this, I need to bring up the assets, the 3D assets that I'm making already, to some sketchy scenes that I need to start engaging and training. And so probably I'm much better than this example I gave, 20% of what I believe I am. No, it's just a poor random value. But imagine if it was something like that. No problem. I will face that because I'm not scared about that anymore. If I am really bad at this point, which I believe I ain't that bad, but I can improve. I certainly can improve, at least to a mediocre level that, oh, that's sufficient for my story, right? And then over time, okay, eventually, right, should be able to, because I like this stuff, so there's no way I'm unable to improve. Training, studying, all that, but the important is not lose the passion for the thing, right? So there needs some, be a bit careful, but essentially this is so going experimental here, actually, instead of here, which contributes to swamping in the pre-prod, the 3D assets making, going experimental in animation filmmaking is the tool to actually train, and then at the same time this will consume the fear. Actually, the fear is already being dissolved by the moment that I've realized that it was the real cause, the deep cause of the patterns, the behavior, that I wasn't able to conclude the 3D assets, and then therefore I was involuntarily creating, and this is the tricky part, folks. This is why this is so important for inventive creativity and all that, projects like that, because this can happen to a lot of people, right? Not just to artists, right? And there are tons of content about it, so this is very, very real. So I don't know the statistics, but I know that I face this shit and it took me years, decades to get past this, and here I'm sharing some things that may be valuable, maybe not, but for me they are being valuable. So certainly other people, other folks out there, maybe you will find some value into this. So there's not a method here, as you can see, how to do this investigation, this analysis. So this is unfortunate, but at least I think this can give some ideas how bizarre and peculiar those things can be. And so something that seems very simple, if you just don't see it, don't identify, don't look for stuff, you might never find in time or in a proper timing, good timing, what could be causing certain behavior, some phenomenon, right? So and now I believe, so technically or managerially or artistically, what will be the next step for me after all this? Okay, so it will be, in my understanding right now, it will be something like this. Basically, I will use Blender's features of, I was already doing that, but now I'm just a little revamp into that. I'm gonna use the employ more and more of the, how do you call it, there's an add-on that is in Blender that is called, it is an extension, the edit linked library. So this I will use a lot to, we don't need it, but it helps. So it allows to get the linked objects. So I have those asset libraries stuff that I'm gonna bring. So I have stuff for the character, stuff for assets, stuff for, I want to even to make some modular. This is not modular, but it's, I was just playing here with some, yeah, it's half, somewhat, yeah, I didn't calculate the height, so it's a bit chaotic. Yeah, slightly calculate, but it's gonna be better aligned. So I want to make some modular stuff, semi-modular stuff, right, with some degree of detail, not super blocky modular, but so I can combine a lot. And so these will be on modular blend files, right, for certain scenery types, right, needs to be planned. So I'm gonna bring those assets. I can, the add-on that I showed, it can be used like you can go directly, if you click here and access the edit link library, there will be a button, you can access the original on its file, original blend file, and without exiting Blender. Then you return here, it just opens a new window in Blender that will go into the, so you don't need to be closing, opening files. It grants more spontaneous access back and forth. It has limitations, but it's super cool. So one limitation, of course, is that we cannot edit it. You cannot see the combination of stuff. So like if I have this character in this scene and this scenery here is what I want to edit, and it comes from, it's linked from another blend file. Of course, if I use the edit link library to edit it, I won't be seeing the character, right, or the landscape. I will just have what I have on that scene, which will be just this, right? So this is one limitation. And of course, if the object is linked, we cannot usually edit it, right, if it's linked. Linked override, we'll need to break the object if you want to make more in-depth data editions, right? Like the mesh, I think it will require to break the link entirely. I'm not totally sure. Yeah, probably. So it's not good, right? I want to keep things linked. So this is one little limitation. So we cannot see in real time the editions, but we can still play with some preparation. So we don't need to be using real time for everything, right? So this is And so with those assets, the modular assets, I think it will be much easier to make some sort of planning for action scenes and stuff that exactly to go to plunge then not into the pre-prod swamp but in the prod swamp, not swamp, then the lake, maybe river, whatever, pool. Well, have some, not lava pool, unless I'm a rock lava magma being that loves that. But essentially, I think I figured out one of the big mysteries of my career. So this is why I was excited about check this. Maybe this leads to nowhere, I don't know, but I feel like this is big stuff, folks. So this will make big stuff on my big change, some important change in the way I'll be publishing the content next on my channel. So this already has some practical impacts, and the way I will be reorganizing my projects to work. So just revising, I will, something that maybe I didn't mention in enough details, but of course I will need to still struggle with plenty of assets. But some of them are already explaining how I would address them, the scenery, the modular stuff that will help me get like puzzling, like a game engine, right? But I will be making those scenery to implement different combination of scenery. Yeah, that's why modular would be funny, right? It will give some structure, and the cool thing of that is I don't intend to make a game, but I could try in the future, near future, I don't know, but I want these malleable sceneries because I want to be able to make more scenes. So that's why I want this versatility. I think it will be funny and it will be good because with it's a small investment, right? This is just array modifiers. There's not a lot of stuff to do in order to be cool, and that allows to set a lot of possibilities for scenes, right? Animation filmmaking, right? So this is why here I could link as stars, right? Another thing that's, yeah, so I'll start to regain access, right, to these major scenery 3D assets, but in a way that is more accessible to experimenting, right? Experimental 3D animation filmmaking, which is sort of urgent, right? So, but I will still have to complete some stuff on at least this character, the main character, Dorothy. But you see, she's nearly complete, so I need to boost that pre-prod here. But already having in mind that, as I did some other times, I will focus on what is essential, rig what is essential, shade what is essential, and whichever essential for the 3D animation to work, and whichever is not essential, I'll just leave it for fixing later, because the linked rigged model, it can auto updates, right? So you don't don't make bizarre change, right? So yeah, usually you don't want to be making animation, and unless you're just changing the mesh, yeah, maybe it's not good to be changing the skeleton. That can cause more prone to errors, I think the least problematic things in my case would be shading, texture. That will be the least problematic stuff. But I've already done this experimentation with Aisha, her sister, in the Starship, right? So she was linked, a rigged model that was linked, and I kept updating the with this edit linked library in the original file, and that usually worked very, very smoothly. So I didn't face any critical trouble which I can remember. Also, I wasn't making radical change to her rig. Also, I was not computing lot of keyframed animation on her, right? That could go broke, but the character was still there and the character was intact. But maybe the some animation I would end up losing breaking the keyframes, right? Disrupting the some of the keyframes. So that is an issue. So it will depend really. Yeah, so for 2D animation filmmaking, if I'm just making layout, which I think it would be very boring to do, that wouldn't be a problem. But if it comes to 3D animation, then yes, these updates on the rig could be very bad, very bad. But still worth if I get as much as I can on her. And then of course there's voice acting, there are soundtrack, sound effects, everything you name it, visual effects. All these things can count as sort of assets that I need to elements, right, to implement. And this is animation filmmaking, so that everything is figured out or in development already. And so this is what makes animation filmmaking so complex, right? It's not just the 3D assets, you need more assets. So you need to have all this implemented together, and this is what I need to be faced. For voice acting, I'll need to pay some voice actors out of my. At the moment, I don't have revenue for this project, so I have to just pay some, hopefully, accessible price artists. I have some lists, so the list for the beginning. So folks, that is what I wanted to show here. So very unconventional live streaming here, but I believe this can be very useful. I don't know who will be watching this besides you folks that follow my channel usually, but in case you find this usable, then please give a like and maybe comment later. But I sincerely hope that this could be useful for creation of ambitious projects. And later on I'll be bringing back some more Pxy-TALKS on subjects like this. This one was very subjective and sort of rough yet. But the stuff that I place here is real. It's like real life stuff. It's not like any formatted bullshit. No, no. This is the real life. Sucks hard, right? So this is how stuff is, right? At least for me, and so it can be. It's just one example out of a million, right? So I think it's why this is interesting, to show what can happen and this is why I think art is so hard actually. Art like autoral projects is why there's not as many short feature films out there as we would like maybe think could have, because a lot of artists just end up not being able to create, to realize them, because it's just too hard to realize those stuff, right? So I'm sure there are lots of fellows like myself which are struggling in this domain, but I never lose. The reason I'm doing this here and I'm keep doing this, even if it's for now an unpaid project, but I never lost my faith on my own project, even though there could be some insecurity, some self-sabotage, everything. I never forgot what is my passion about, so I kept chasing it to whatever end, and I think this is a good asset for me. So if I have anything good, is probably this stubbornness that I don't know. I just have this, so I never give up on this stuff, and I don't intend to fail on that. So it's like I'm gonna die doing this or another project, right? So of course favorable conditions can help and favorable conditions can destroy right? Anyone, but any project, but um, I can't tell that my conditions were very favorable, because look at this crap, right? This is not very favorable, right? But I finally found some ways to probably get through all this. So and hopefully that will soon change everything, and then this channel will become something what it was born to become in my ideal. And we'll see, folks. So thanks very much for your patience, your interest and curiosity. Feel free to comment. You can leave me a message later. I think you have a Discord if you want to. Let me try to find it here. I think this is, I hate this thing, but yeah, where's the, they changed this again. No, there's a code here. Okay, it says gnomes, no, Pxy-gnomes 2448. Okay, so I live here. Actually, it's this. My Discord, yeah. Just double checking. Yes, exactly. So you can add me, then we can exchange some ideas. If you are making some, if you have similar goals like ambitions, inspiration of making animated series, 2D or 3D, I don't care, or any other, if you're interested in this storytelling stuff, could be even web comics, I don't know, yeah, I would be glad to. I'd curious to be what I'd be curious to know what you'd be doing. If you have some issues you want to share about this production stuff, this creative stuff, if you could have some, uh, if you could relate to what I've explained, if you have found solutions or similarities or difference you want to share, all that, or discuss all that, I'm open to. I find it very interesting. And that's it, folks. Thanks for watching again. Take care and happy blending. Tomorrow we'll be back. I'm still planning what would be the next live streaming, because I'm making hard changes here again. But just in advancing just a little, most likely I would like to engage in the scenery modular stuff, some 3D asset stuff, maybe a bit of rigging, we'll see. That's it, folks. See ya another day. Take care and happy blendering. See ya, folks.